Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Basically, people are living way longer than expected. And there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligation. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
Now, I think what Musk, the wealthiest guy in the world, just said is totally outrageous. That's a hell of a Ponzi scheme when for the last 80 years, Social Security has paid out every nickel owed to every eligible American. Quite a Ponzi scheme. Kristen, right now in America, half of elderly people are trying to get by on $30,000 a year, 22% on $15,000 a year. We've got to raise Social Security benefits. We've got to expand Medicare to include hearing, dental, and vision, not go after these programs which are so important to millions of our seniors.
Elon Musk thinks Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. You know, people are saying really cold-hearted stuff when you have to roll out Bernie Sanders to reply. That is absolutely ridiculous. What's a scheme? Is Tesla getting billions of dollars and Elon Musk's companies being taken to the next level with American taxpayers' money? But I second that thought from Bernie Sanders that I just improvised. The richest man on earth, Elon Musk, is literally implying that on the chopping block is Social Security. He wants to gut it. He thinks it's a Ponzi scheme because people are living too long for his liking. This is what the man is directly saying.
What we have got to do, and I think most Americans agree, and I've just introduced legislation to do that, is you lift the cap on taxable income. Right now, Musk, worth $400 billion, contributes the same amount into the Social Security Trust Fund as somebody making $170 million. You lift that cap, we can extend the solvency of Social Security for 75 years, and you can raise benefits.
How about instead you remove the cap from Social Security, as Bernie points out, so that people as rich as Musk pay more, and then you increase its solvency for many more years. A man who could almost personally fund the program himself. Don't check my math on that because it's incorrect, but a man who definitely could afford to pay much more into the system, tweeting on his little social media site that he purchased and then ruined about how we need to reform the program that literally 70 million Americans, retired people and their dependents, disabled people and their dependents, rely on to pay their bills, to live sometimes somewhat comfortably in retirement, to supplement their income, and more often than not to avoid just straight up poverty. Wants to put on the table taking it away from these people. It's interesting, none of his government efficiency cuts seem to affect any of the billions of dollars that his own companies get. Isn't that weird? Or how it's never a lack of efficiency to redirect more money to the wealthiest people in this country. So you need Bernie Sanders to come out there. While Musk is busy playing internet edgelord and crying about taxes, Bernie is reminding him and the rest of us that Social Security is not a handout. It is a lifeline that working Americans have paid into their entire lives. Musk, a man, I'll repeat it again, who got billions and still gets billions, but received them to build his empire, has the audacity to turn around and say, we can't afford to support our seniors. Spare us. If anything needs reforming, it's a system that lets billionaires like him hoard obscene wealth while pretending that they are victims. But he doesn't care about people beyond his own circle, beyond his own self. Because did you see the other clip he said on Joe Rogan this week? That empathy is the biggest flaw in Western societies.
The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. The empathy exploit. They're exploiting a bug in Western civilization, which is the empathy response. So, and I think empathy is good, but you need to think it through and not just be programmed like a robot.
Yes, you see, empathy is a real problem. Not that empathy itself is bad, but when it gets overused to encourage programs we can't afford. Selective empathy is not a thing. The point of empathy is that you feel it for people and situations that you yourself are not in. If you only feel empathy and act upon it when it financially benefits you, that's not empathy at all. That's sociopathy, and I hope that's a word. But Bernie's not the only Democrat, at least, seeing through this BS. Rep. John Larson, who I didn't know was a rep until seeing this clip, and who says the following clip very slowly for most of it, and with the fire of an elderly person in Congress that we have too many of, but at least the message is right.
You could imagine how many Americans, whether they're here today or listening at home, when they heard over the weekend that Elon Musk, the wealthiest man in the world, a billionaire, said that Social Security is a scam.
Well, I mean, the government's one big pyramid scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you can tell me better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
What the real scam is to tell the American people that you need $2 trillion and assign that to a billionaire who has no accountability, did not have to go through Senate approval, is not a government employee, isn't even a volunteer, and yet he is placing his will on a Republican-led Congress in both the House and Senate. It's long overdue for Congress and for the citizens of this country to demand of their Congress that they take a vote, that they let the people know where they stand and whether they're going to stand with them and the nation's #1 anti-poverty program for the elderly and children, or you're going to stand with Elon Musk and Trump to make sure that $2 trillion gets cut so that it can make way for further tax cuts for the nation's wealthiest 1%. At $500 billion plus, you would think Mr. Musk might say, hey, you know what? This is a great nation that has provided me these great opportunities. How about we care for them the same way this nation has cared for us?
There you have it, if you didn't fall asleep during that clip. The point is Social Security should not be up for debate. Republican leaders, as well as Democrats, all have their constituents greatly benefit and greatly need Social Security. It's supposed to be a promise to the people who built this country. So more Democrats, and hopefully 3 or more Republicans, but I'm not holding my breath, but at least really all Democrats need to come together and find a way to shut Elon down on this. And hint, holding up little bingo signs that say resist isn't going to do it. I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. You can subscribe to my podcast Last Week on Earth, or you can follow me on Instagram at Ben Gleib for lots more.